So in movies, a lot of the time, deleted scenes are left on the cutting room floor for good reason. A lot of the time, these scenes are just shitty. They add nothing to the movie. They're extraneous, or in some cases, they even ruin the movie by making characters do or say things that are just incongruous with their character in the rest of the movie. However, occasionally you get a hidden gem, a deleted scene that really makes you scratch your head and ask, why was this deleted? Like, this really should have been in the movie. And some of these scenes just stick out like sore thumbs in this regard. Like, deleted scenes that are actually really good. So, I'm going to make a list here of the best deleted scenes in movie. Now, a few caveats. I'm not going to include it as an entire deleted scene if it's just like literally one shot or like a few shots, but honorable mention in this regard to The Dark Knight Rises because there's a few really good shots in the trailer that weren't included in the movie, and I actually question in some cases why, because the shots used in the trailer, at least 3 or 4 shots, I'd say are better than the shot in the actual film. Like the football player running while the stadium blows up behind him. The take of Bane saying your punishment must be more severe. Um, Alfred's entire monologue about like I swore to you, your parents, I would protect you, but I haven't, or something like that. And even one of the shots in Bane's speech montage where a guy's getting thrown off a second floor railing inside a mansion. Like there's just they're not entire scenes, but there's just specific shots in the trailer that were better than the shot that was actually used in the movie. And it's just weird that this happens so much for this one particular movie. So yeah, honorable mention for that, but they're not. It's not an entire scene in any of these cases, so that's why I'm not including it in the list. Also, I'm not including cases where you have more than one version of the movie that was released theatrically. So, for instance, in the movie Taken, the international version is much better than the American version because the American version was heavily censored to get a PG-13 rating. However, because the international version was released in every country other than the US and Canada, I believe. Yeah, Canadians, we got fucked with the PG-13 version, even though our rating system is super lenient. And it would have gotten 14A either way, or maybe even a Canadian PG. These days, it probably would. But yeah, I'm not counting those cases, but I am counting cases where the deleted scene was included in a director's cut or a longer version of the movie that was not released anywhere in the globe theatrically, or at least wasn't given the main theatrical release. Like if it was released theatrically like months later and to little fanfare, that I would still put it on the list because I wouldn't consider that like the main release of the film. So yeah, number 12, The Last Jedi. The scene where Luke Skywalker is seen mourning over Han's death. It's a very brief scene, but it's an important one. Like granted, the movie sucks. It would suck with this scene and it sucks without it, but still, it would make the movie a little bit better because it gives a moment where Luke Skywalker mourns over Han's death, which is something that we didn't get at all in the film. The film just glosses over it. And Mark Hamill even joked about it. He's like, yeah, well, they had time for me getting the green milk from that animal, but apparently they don't have time to show me mourning over Han's death. Like he was obviously being sarcastic there. And yeah, that scene, I there's no logical reason why it should have been cut. So yeah, this definitely makes it on the list. Number 11, Terminator 2. Now this was included in the extended version, but toward the end, when the T1 after Arnold says "Hasta la vista, baby," and shoots the T1000, and where the liquid, the whatchamacallit, I don't know, liquid nitrogen or whatever. Yeah, and he disintegrates. And then after that, the T1000 starts glitching and we see a bunch of glitches. I just thought it was a really cool scene because it really shows off the special effects, which were absolutely phenomenal and innovative for the time. Still hold up decently well today, even. And it just also provides more context to why the T1000 starts glitching more later on in the fight afterward. So yeah, brief scene, but again, it doesn't make sense. Like to me, that definitely should have been kept in. Number 10, Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. When Jonah Jameson is shown trying on the Spider-Man costume. It's just a funny little scene. Like it doesn't really add anything to the movie plot-wise, but it's funny. And there is a lot of humor in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, so it fits with the tone of the film. And yeah, it's just a funny, cute little scene where where Jonah Jameson tries on the Spider-Man costume and he thinks he looks so cool in it. And it just shows obviously his hypocrisy because he hates Spider-Man so much, but yet he really wants to try on this costume and he thinks he looks awesome in it. So yeah, it's just a cute little scene. Oh, and one thing before I forget, for the honorable mentions, like the things that aren't really actual scenes, but like little moments, in The Dark Knight, apparently there was a few little bits that were cut to get the PG-13 rating, and we never got to see, like shots that were a little bit more violent or graphic. Like the guy with the Joker card paper clipped to him, it was actually a knife. Or apparently we got to see Lau, the Chinese accountant guy, on fire at the top of the pile of money. And yeah, those scenes again, there's not entire scenes, they're just shots, so I wouldn't include them. Also, these are the only ones that like don't exist anywhere, like at least nowhere that's publicly accessible, whereas the other scenes on this list are. Oh, and another thing I didn't include because again, it's not publicly accessible is the deleted extremely gory footage from Event Horizon, which was destroyed because it was in a Romanian salt mine and it just got ruined over time. Again, I can't include stuff that I haven't seen, but I'll give it an honorable mention. So yeah. Anyway, back to the main list. Number 9 is in Watchmen. Rorschach's entire conversation with, I think his name was Bernie, the psychologist at the prison. It was some great lines from the graphic novel that really fleshed out the scene a lot more, where Rorschach talks about his worldview. And the extended version of the scene, which can be seen in the extended cut of the movie, it just fleshes out the scene a lot more. And I don't see why it should have been deleted. Like, it was some of the Rorschach's best dialogue in the entire story, where he just talks about his entire worldview, why he does his vigilantism, and how he has a negative view of humanity. And again, it's important dialogue toward the themes of the story and toward who Rorschach is as a character. And for the life of me, I just can't see why this was trimmed down. Which sucks because honestly, I think the theatrical version of Watchmen is better. This is a recurrent theme with a lot of these deleted scenes, is that you can see them in the extended cuts of the movies, but in all of these cases, I actually think the theatrical version is better overall because it flows better. However, what's frustrating is there'll always be like that one scene in the extended version that really should have been included. And yeah, so this is it for Watchmen. Yeah, the extended dialogue of Rorschach talking to the psychologist at the prison. Number 8 is in The Phantom Menace. It's the scene after the pod race where Anakin is seen beating up Greedo because Greedo was talking shit. And what I like about this scene is it's the only moment in The Phantom Menace that actually hints at Anakin's dark side. And I really feel like Anakin's turn to the dark side, it starts in Attack of the Clones, and it feels like it comes out of nowhere a little bit. Like, in general, like the person who we see it doesn't come out of nowhere in Attack of the Clones, but what I mean is there seems to be a disconnect between the sweet, innocent kid that Anakin is in The Phantom Menace versus the person he starts becoming in Attack of the Clones, where he's very moody, he's very resentful of Obi-Wan, very jealous, very kind of like petty and angry about a lot of things. And you can definitely see in Attack of the Clones how Anakin is going to turn to the dark side. But in The Phantom Menace, you don't really see that so much. He's just this cute kid. And what I like about this scene is how it does introduce that element of Anakin. And I think it makes his characterization more consistent with that in episode 2 and 3. That said, okay, the scene has one problem, which it has one thing I hate in so many movies, which is just fan service, because it has a moment after the fight where another one of Greedo's friends. Like, keep in mind, they're both kids. Like, Greedo's a kid at this point, and so is Anakin. Where one of Greedo's friends tells him, "Oh, Greedo, you keep talking shit like that, and you're gonna get shot one day." Something like that. Like, obviously, he doesn't say it in those words, but yeah, that's basically what he says. And it's like, do you really have to have the fan service moment of mentioning Greedo getting shot by Han Solo? Um, and speaking of which, I'm not including changes from the original Star Wars to the special editions in episode 4 to 6 on this list. But yeah, obviously a lot of those changes I would definitely undo. But yeah, Phantom Menace, yeah. So, number 7 is in Titanic. Now, there's a number of deleted scenes in Titanic. Most of them, I think, were deleted for good reason. Like, a lot of them aren't that great and make the movie worse. But there's one scene that I think was actually really good, which is where Mr. Ismay, I forget exactly his job, but he was one of the leaders of the crew. Like, he was somebody who was highly responsible for the functioning of the ship. And he was one of the people, I think he was the one who was really pushing for the ship to go as fast as possible because he wanted to make headlines. And yeah, we get the moment during the sinking when Mr. Andrews tells him, "Well, I think you'll get your headlines, Mr. Ismay." And yeah, I mean, this scene really brought Mr. Ismay's storyline full circle, because it's a scene where after, like, he basically trips onto the lifeboat, like the coward he is, he just goes on the lifeboat even when he's not supposed to, because A, they're trying to get women and children at that point. B, I'm pretty sure I know the captain is supposed to go down with their ship, but I'm pretty sure he's somebody who's being high ranking. He's probably supposed to go down with the ship also, but he doesn't. And the lifeguard sees him, but lets him go onto the lifeboat. He just kind of looks the other way and lets it happen. But in this deleted scene, we see when they're rescued on the Carpathia, Mr. Ismay, he walks down the length of the ship and he just sees a bunch of the survivors and just how destitute they look, and he kind of looks at them. I don't think they really know who he is, but they know that he's rich and he's upper class, like first class. And there's this moment of tension and also kind of guilt on his part where he realizes like what he's done to these people. And yeah, it was an important scene in the movie, and I don't think it should have been cut. I know the movie was really long as it was, but still, I think this scene could have been kept in. Okay, number 6 is in Hancock. Now, Hancock, I think, is a very double-edged sword of a movie, because I think the first half was really good. Well, not really good, but pretty good, and the second half sucked. But there was one scene that was supposed to be like, the first half was sort of like establishing Hancock as like a drunken superhero who has alcohol issues, and just, it was kind of like an action comedy. But then in the second half, it introduces all this mythology. It gets really self-serious and pretentious, and it just, that whole aspect of the movie doesn't work at all. So the first half of the movie, though, contained one deleted scene that I thought really added to Hancock's character. And the scene, I think, was deleted so the movie could get a PG-13 rating. I guess they felt there was no way to edit this scene and still get a PG-13. So they just cut it out entirely. Where in this scene, Hancock goes to a bar and a younger girl, a younger black girl, she starts hitting on him. And he takes her back to his trailer and has sex with her. But he warns her, because he's a superhero, like when he comes, it could kill her. So he has to like push her off. And like, we don't see it like graphically, but we see 3 holes in the in the roof of his trailer, because when he comes, it shoots holes through the roof of his trailer. And I know this scene sounds like something from like kind of like a juvenile like sex comedy film. It sort of is a bit like that, but it actually humanizes him a lot, because we see her reaction afterward where it's like he's trying to like like reach out to her, be like, "Hey, I hope you're all right. I hope that didn't bother you too much. Oh, I could take you flying now." And he starts like actually starting to like give a shit about her at this point, but she's so bothered by what happened that she just leaves without saying a word. Like she pretends like she's going to the bathroom, but then she sneaks out and drives away. And it shows like his loneliness, and I think it really helps give him more depth as a character, but it shows like how his superpowers can alienate him from regular people and prevent him from having like regular relationships. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a pretty good scene, and I think it added to the movie actually. So number five, Furious 7, the seventh Fast and Furious movie. The opening scene was cut heavily. I'm pretty sure it was to get the PG-13 rating, where there was a lot more dialogue in the scene where what's his name? Shaw, like the one Shaw brother talks to the like where Jason Statham talks to oh fuck, what's the actor's name? That guy. His brother. His brother is played by that actor who's from why am I forgetting his name? He's the guy who's in the Hobbit movies as Bard. But yeah, where he's talking to his brother on the operating table, and the monologue is a lot longer, where he talks about how it was for them growing up as kind of like thugs in London. And it really adds to his character. Like you get a lot more depth. It was something like you were the one who made our father give the belt, but I was the one who took the beatings or something like that. Like it goes into a lot of detail about their upbringing and kind of why they are the way they are. And I think the reason why the scene was censored is because it involved an extensive close up on his wounds when he's lying in the hospital bed. Um, and it was just a bit gory, but also there were afterward we have a lengthy scene of Jason Statham walking out of the hospital, and there's just dead cops lying around everywhere. And I think the MPAA rating board for some reason has a particular problem with violence against police. Like I think that's partly why the Matrix got rated R. And I think that's why they cut this scene. Like there you can still see the dead cops in the theatrical version, which got PG-13, but like they did this weird thing where they like sped up the footage and they tried to make it look all stylized like a music video. But I actually think it wasn't a stylistic choice. It was actually a censorship choice, edited to make it look like a stylistic choice, which is kind of interesting because it's rare when people will censor a movie that way. But yeah, I guess props to the editors for doing it in a clever way and disguising the fact that they were actually censoring the movie. But yeah, the I think the original version is a lot better. It's a lot more badass, a lot more impactful. And yeah, definitely better version of that scene. So number four is from Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. It's a flashback scene to Boromir and Faramir, and it really underscores the dynamic between the two brothers and how Denethor loved Boromir so much more, and it adds a lot to their background, and also it makes Boromir more sympathetic too. Makes him seem like a bit less of a jerk. And yeah, I mean, it's an important scene, and again, like a lot of people like the extended versions of Lord of the Rings better. I actually like the theatrical versions better. I think they flow better. But I do think that this scene really should have been kept in because it's very important for Boromir and Faramir's character arcs. So yeah, number 3 on the list is Revenge of the Sith. At the very ending of the movie, when they show Yoda landing on Dagobah, it's very simple. It's no dialogue. It's just a very short scene of Yoda landing on Dagobah, like less than a minute long. But I think it's a beautifully shot scene, and it really helps tie together the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. And for the life of me, I don't think this should have been deleted. Apparently, the reasoning behind it was they wanted to only focus on the Skywalker family. But from what I saw in the commentary, there was a lot of disagreement among the filmmakers on this scene because there were some people who really strongly felt this scene should have been kept in. And I agree. I think it definitely should have been. Number two is in Aliens, the second Alien film, the one directed by James Cameron, where Ripley, the main character played by Sigourney Weaver, learns about the fact like she's been in like carbon sleep for decades, and she learns about the fact that like all her family back on Earth are now dead. And it's a very important scene because it establishes the fact that she was a mother and lays the groundwork for her maternal relationship with Newt, the little girl who she meets later on in the film. And it's a very sad moment. It's a very important moment for her character. And I was actually shocked that this was deleted. Like it's on like the extended version of the film. It's like, this feels like a very crucial character moment. And I can't understand at all why it was deleted. Like it's completely illogical. So the number one on this list was also from a James Cameron film. The Earth scenes in Avatar, the first Avatar movie. So in the extended, there's two extended versions of the film, and this is in like the longest extended version. There's a lengthy scene about 6 minutes long of like a few scenes. It's like an interlude of Jake Sully on Earth before he goes to Pandora, sort of establishing his character, establishing why he went on the mission, and I think most importantly of all, establishing what Earth is like and why it's such a shithole and why the humans want to go to Pandora and get resources from there so badly. And I think it just is very important to the movie, and it fleshes out the humans' motivations a lot more. Maybe that's why it was deleted, because Cameron didn't want to accidentally make the humans too sympathetic by showing what a shithole of a planet they came from. But it could make them more or less sympathetic depending on your view, because you could see it as like, well, the humans fucked up Earth, now they're trying to fuck up Pandora. Or you could alternatively see it as like, yeah, these humans, they have a shitty deal and now they're trying to help themselves, better their planet. So again, like you could see it either way, but I think it fits with the themes of the film. I think it should have been kept in. It fleshes out the movie a lot more, and also Jake Sully's character. And yeah, I think it's actually one of the best parts of the movie. So yeah, those are the best deleted scenes in my opinion. And by the way, one scene I didn't include, I was considering including, but I didn't, was in Return of the King, the scene in the extended version that shows Saruman's death. I was conflicted about it because on one hand, it is important. It's very important to the plot of the movie. But on the other hand, I just didn't think it was a terribly good scene. Like, I thought it was just kind of stupid how Legolas shot Wormtongue with an arrow after Wormtongue already stabbed Saruman. And it was weird how they were like shouting up and down from like the top of the tower. It was just, I don't know. It wasn't a great scene. Like it was definitely important. I don't disagree with that. And it felt like something big was missing from the film because it wasn't there. But honestly, it was kind of a shitty scene. And I think it would have actually dragged the quality of the movie down. Plus, the movie was already ridiculously long as it was, although you could argue that they could have deleted some of the stuff from the endings, like back in the Shire. I don't know. That one I'm too iffy about, so I'm not going to include it on the list. Also, there's a scene in Star Trek, the 2009 Star Trek, that showed a flashback to Spock's birth. I think it was a cute little scene, like when the Vulcans ask, "Oh, why is she crying? The baby is healthy," and the other one says, "Well, because she's human." Like, it was a good moment, but it felt like it might have been a bit distracting and out of place in the movie. Plus, the fact that they used a different actress for Spock's mother in this scene, but I think they used the same actor as Spock's father. That's a bit weird and a bit distracting too. So I think it's a cute little scene, but I'm not sure if it would have made the movie better. Another example like that is Terminator 3, the Sergeant Candy scene. It's this deleted scene where they show how the Terminator got Arnold Schwarzenegger's facial appearance and voice, and it's a funny scene, it's hilarious, but it does not fit with the rest of the movie tonally at all. It feels way more comedic. So I can see why it was a deleted scene, but it is a funny scene in and of itself. So yeah, those are the best deleted scenes in my opinion, and some honorable mentions, and a few that I considered but ultimately left out.